How to colour grade your ski videos. Colour grading is subjective. Different people have different tastes and like different styles. So play around to find what works for you, but bear in mind that you might need to take a different approach for different videos, different clients, in different situations. Before we colour grade, we want to make sure we've done a solid colour correction. And if you're not sure how to do that, watch my video here where I go in depth onto how I colour correct my ski footage. So once you've applied colour correction to each of your clips, we're going to want to start with an adjustment layer. Drag and drop that over your whole timeline, and we're going to create our grade on that adjustment layer to keep it consistent across all of our clips. Step 1, curves. I like to use curves in my image to boost the contrast and bring up the exposure a little bit in the midtones. I usually use a slightly convex curve like this one, as I find that gives me the best results. You may also like to play around with an S-curve if you feel you're lacking a bit of contrast in your videos. Step 2. If you haven't already, you want to remove any colour cast from your shadows. You can do this using the Luma versus Sat curve and fading off the highs and lows to remove any saturation in the highlights and the shadows. This will make sure that your whites are whites and your blacks are blacks. Next, I like to add a little bit of saturation balance. I do this using the saturation versus saturation curves. I bring the most saturated parts of the image down and the least saturated parts of the image up. This balances my saturation across the colour range and ensures that the saturation is consistent and I don't have some areas more saturated than others. Next, hue adjustments. This isn't always needed, but sometimes you'll find a purple or a green tint in your shadows. And I use the hue adjustment and the colour dropper tool to add a little bit of blue and remove that tint from the shadows. If you're using a custom LUT, now is the time to apply it. Drop that onto your adjustment layer. Bring the mix right down to 0 and slowly fade it in until you achieve the desired result. I find that usually I'll sit within the 20 to 40% range. Anything above that starts to look a little bit weird and fake, and you lose that realism within your videos. Remember, you don't need to use a LUT. They do help in some situations, but often you can achieve a better result by mixing with the curves yourself, so play around. Sharpening, only if needed. It's very easy to overdo this, especially if you're editing on a laptop or a smaller screen. So zoom right in and add the minimal amount required to avoid adding weird artifacts or noise to your video clips. Grain. If grain fits the aesthetic you're going for, you can add grain to your clips. You can do this either using the built-in realistic grain effect or by dragging an overlay on the top of your image in the timeline. In either case, make sure you keep it low and aim for the 10 to 15% mark max. And that's almost it, we're nearly there. Let's look at a few common mistakes. The thing I see most often is too much contrast. This can lead to over or under exposure or bleached clips. LUTs are really powerful, but if you go too hard on the LUT, it can ruin your footage, and it might look good to you, but it won't look good to anyone else. So I often find before I publish anything, I'll put the grade on, go away, have a cup of tea, come back later with a fresh set of eyes and make sure I'm still happy with the colour and that it's not too intense. Over sharpening. This is also really common, especially if your shot is slightly out of focus or you've shot with the wrong aperture. You try to compensate in post and it always just looks ugly, so keep your sharpening level low. Too much grain. Again, too much grain can completely ruin a shot, making it look overly artistic and detracting from the point of the video you're trying to make. And finally, tinting. Green or purple hues in either your highlights or your shadows can ruin the colour composition of a clip and give you these odd tones that don't look realistic. So that's it. That's how I colour grade my footage. If you enjoyed this video, please drop me a like and stay tuned for more content like this. Thanks for watching.